So this is our last day in the Galapagos Islands, San Cristobal specifically, and it's been a crazy adventure. The last few days I've never sweated so much, played so hard, and have had so many mosquito bites in my life. So I think I left off on day 3 or 4. The days are kind of getting jumbled up, but that's kind of island life. And so our host family, which is 40 minutes outside of the coast or in the mainland, and they had us cut down mora, which is blackberry in Spanish. And if you've ever gone into the jungle, taken a machete, cut down these thorny bushes that are just growing rapidly on the islands in 90-degree weather in mosquito-infested land, then you'll know how incredibly hard it is. I've never had such a more difficult time doing hard labor in my life. Not saying that I've done much hard labor, but this was an experience. So that was day 4. Day 5, we were waiting to do some more work essentially at the camp, but the previous night it had rained so hard and it actually collapsed one of the houses we were working under the day before. And yeah, so we were waiting to rebuild this, but the rain didn't let up. So we all went into town. Connor and I split up and looked for stories in town. Connor found a couple. He was focusing on the fishermen and the conservationists, how their relationship has kind of grown apart because of the regulations on how much fishing can be done in the Galapagos Islands. And I focused on the family at camp, as well as how the blackberry is actually overtaking most of the land here. It's just growing so rapidly in the humidity, and I thought that was quite fascinating. So we parted ways. I did a lot more filming, came up to this spot actually, and from here it just looks like Jurassic Park and just totally wild land. I mean, there's birds of prey behind me just swooping in, catching fish. This place looks like a prehistoric jungle, and it's awesome. And so that was day 4. We just kind of explored more of the coast and what it had to offer, the vibrancy of town, as well as just try and get our bearings, essentially. It's a little late, and we had a rough start, so that's kind of why we started late, essentially. The night of day 5, when we came back from in town, it was so windy. Trees were falling over next to us. The road that we walk up to our house was blocked by one of the biggest trees I've ever seen. And yeah, essentially we were just trying not to die in this little bamboo hut / house, you can call it. And yeah, that was a crazy night. And Connor and I had decided that we would go and do touristy things on day 6 and day 7. We haven't really gotten a feel for the tourist life, essentially. We've been in the jungle, kind of roughing it out, trying to find our stories. And we wanted to make it a really enjoyable trip with both aspects of it, where we worked in the mainland and also enjoying what tourists come here for, so we can get a better perspective of why people come here. So day 6, we were planning to go to Kicker Rock, which is this fatty rock. And man, it's comparable to probably like 4 Empire State Buildings stacked side by side. Huge. And that's where a lot of the birds kind of nest and do their stuff. And we were trying to go scuba diving, and well, none of that happened because that previous night on day 5, it was so windy that all these trees kind of fell in between the roads. And at 7:35 a.m., we got suspicious, and yeah, well, we weren't gonna get to the coast. And Lydia actually went down the road, looked for a taxi, looked for cell reception up on a mountain, and she came back to camp and was like, you need to help. So we grabbed machetes, we walked down the road, found all these trees down there. We were just hammering away, bam, 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 and yeah, trying to avoid power lines. So this whole trip we were avoiding power lines, blackberry bushes. Man, it was just all over the place. And yeah, eventually we made our way through. 5 hours later, boom, we go and do some touristy things. We went to go see Darwin's tortoises. Awesome. They really blend into the landscape in there. Massive. And then we went to Junco Crater, which is a freshwater pot of, I don't know, it's just a crater with a lot of fresh water in it. And then we went to a beach, I don't know, too many names. Yeah, so we went to see the tortoises, Junco Crater, and a lovely white sandy beach, which we haven't gotten a feel for at all at this trip. So that was really refreshing. And then we stayed in town for the rest of the night. Day 6. No, that was day 6. Day 7, we finally got to go kick a rock after moving our reservation to the next day. We had to pay an extra $20, but that totally worth it. So we got on a boat at around 9 o'clock, went out to this fatty rock, which I described to you, and we went snorkeling, which was awesome. The waves were choppy, so I was getting a little nauseous, swallowing seawater. I haven't snorkeled in over a decade, and it was rough. But we saw sea turtles, sea lions just coming up, fishing next to us, and a ton of fish. And when we jumped off the boat, we saw just a ream of sharks underneath us, probably, I don't know, it could be 100 feet down, but the sunlight hit just right so that we could see it. And man, such a cool place. Such a cool underwater kind of SeaWorld type feel. I mean, if you've ever been to an aquarium, it's exactly the same thing, except you're right next to the fish and there are no boundaries. And yeah, so that was an incredibly lovely day. We came back. Connor interviewed a fisherman and a conservationist, and I went and did some more shooting and really enjoyed what the Galapagos has to offer. And that was a sandy beach, sea lions, little red crabs by the rock, the iguanas, and all their birds of prey, which was really incredibly cool. So that was day 7, and here we are, day 8, and we're about to leave. So in a few hours, I'm going to get on a plane, do some red-eye flights, and we'll be back at the Murrow College, and we'll see what kind of footage I got, and hopefully I can make something out of it. But thanks for joining me on my trip to the Galapagos Islands. I hope you enjoyed what I talked about and hopefully what I post up. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. See you in a few.